All right, here we are in Photoshop again. We are going to take a look at using the type tool. So on our tools panel, um, on the left hand side here, this is the type tool. You'll notice that if I click and hold on it, yes, there are some other ones. We're going to focus basically on just this first one. You can click and drag, but we would only use that if we were doing a large body of text in Photoshop. So we're just going to single click, and I'm going to go ahead and type some text. I'm going to select it. I'm not quite sure why it's not showing up here, so let me choose a different font and just to see if that works. Oh, here's why it's not showing up, right? We're missing the text. We can't see it. That is because the text is white. So if I go back and grab my type tool and then hover over it, and then I'm just going to double click, it highlights it. Up along my palette up here, I can see that my type is white. So I'm going to click on that box, and I'm going to go ahead and choose a color to put on there. I'm going to go with something a little bit bright. I'm going to hit OK. And so now you can see the type. Yay. All right, so back to my type tool. If I want to make manipulations to this, and you'll notice here that it does create another layer for me, so I can move it up and down if I have other images. But this is where I can choose the font. I can change the size, right? So if I want to make it bigger so I can see it. And then of course, there's the left, justify, center, and you're not going to really see this because I only have one line of text. So let me go ahead and do it this way. So left justify, center would be look like that, and then right justify would be, it just scoots it off the screen a little bit. So I'm going to slide it over. Back into my type tool so that I can make some adjustments here. I just hit Command A to be able to grab all. I want to share with you guys that this menu up here probably looks a little different than what you'll see, only because my screen is, compacted. So in order for us to view all of our tools, we would go to what's called the character palette. So here's my character palette. It's again got all of my fonts. I can change my type size. This is where I can change the leading. Remember, that's the spacing between lines of text. So I just made it a smaller number, which means that it would be all squished together. I can also grab right next to it. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to, right next to my point size, or not my point size, but my leading number, I can just click on it and then I can drag, and I can visually see the difference that it makes. The other one, this one is our tracking, and that's going to change our spacing between each character. So we had questions on those before. We also have on here if we needed to adjust the each character, like where it's positioned from the baseline. So that's what we call this line underneath the text here. We can click and drag to move and adjust like that. We can also stretch it vertically and then stretch it horizontally or shrink it horizontally. On the color palette, we can also change our color here, or I'm sorry, character palette. So these are faux, which just means that we would be changing the appearance of the type, but it's not actually, it's a Microsoft Word application of it. So it's Photoshop not using the actual text or family of font if we installed something. It's nice to use, but sometimes it can cause problems when you go to print. So just be aware of that. I don't think it's going to be a problem for anybody. Of course, you got italics. These would be all caps. This is small caps. So your first letter is a regular cap, and then your other ones are all caps, but they're a little bit smaller. Superscript, subscript, underline, and strike through. The underline and strike through, please, 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 we really don't use those. So again, if we mess up and we want to change the appearance of our palette, we can reset the whole character palette so that it's back to just plain 12-point default font. I don't really want to do that, but I just did. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply, make this a little bigger so we can see it again, and change the font back to a nice bright color for you. Okay, so that's basically the character panel and controlling typeface. One last thing that we can do in here, which is nice, this is where we would find the warp up on our top of our control panel there. And so we click on it. Instead of using none, we can choose arc. Obviously that's way too much. We're just a nice little subtle arc on there. Click OK, and you can see that it's applied. That would look better centered probably. You can, of course, resize this by grabbing the corners. You can make it bigger and smaller. And then I just want to point out that on your layer palette, of course, you can choose the layer style, and you can add some really nice effects here. So you can get pretty crazy with those layer styles, so be selective. Usually subtle works really well, but you can do some really nice things. There is the stroke option. That's where you would find it if you needed to have a stroke. We can adjust where it is. You can also, I believe, apply a gradient in there if you wanted to. So it goes from the black up to the white. That's kind of a nice effect that you can do to make your text stand out. I don't know, you just need to try them out and see what kinds of things you like. So that is your type tool.